Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay at home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight. Got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet. Cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to 2024 and the beginning of our show. Yeah. Hope it was a great 2023 for you. If it wasn't, hey, you get a new year to start over. It's like a reset. But at the same time, we're here for you regardless. That's the delight of the org and of for the National At Home Dad Network, and also for this podcast. We're here for you. We want to hear from you. That's the other fun thing. So
yeah, love to hear how you're doing and how your year went. But also, a lot of times, we've talked on the show in the past, so we don't really make resolutions per se. But I think really any productive person or really a happy person sets goals. You put it like, this is what I want to do this year. And you make it, reasonable, and you make it something that you can step into fairly easily, but still kind of a challenge for you or something you want to change, And a lot of times we do that at the beginning of the year. So let us know what your goals are. Let us know where you'll be next year at this time.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of change too, we've changed the time that we record this podcast, because now you're going to see Danny and I wiping our eyes, maybe yawning.
Don't watch the video. It's
definitely drinking coffee. The nice part is that we have to get up in time to get our kids around. Except for this recording, which was
today,
which is done during a holiday break, and we slept until the last possible moment that we needed to get.
There's no school today. Kids stayed up late. Kids definitely slept in this morning, and 15 minutes before the show started, before we started our recording, oh, I better wake up and get some coffee. So,
my wife turned to me and goes, "Don't you have a podcast to record?" I said, "Yeah, I sure do. Better get up and get some coffee." Yeah. So, hopefully, like I said, everybody had a great end of the year. I will say one thing that Danny and I really want to talk about, and I think it's probably one of the most important things to start off with for this year, is the fact that if you were a member of the National At Home Dad Network and you paid your membership fee, that ended at the stroke of midnight. And so on New Year's Eve. And so that means that if you don't have it set up for re-renewal, or you're not a lifetime member, you're going to need to jump back on and make sure that you get things set up to pay the membership fee for 2024, which the organization greatly appreciates if you do that. Helps out with a lot of different avenues that we work with. And you get the benefit of being able to continue to get the resources that we have available for members only, especially all of the videos from past conventions, which is, I honestly think, probably one of the biggest resource tools that we offer, because there's some great videos from the past few years.
And I love about the videos is there's always something that I either wanted to go see and had to see something, or had to do something else, wasn't able to make that one, or something I did and I want to remember what the person said more specifically. I quote at least Catherine Perlman all the time. When she presented in Orlando, which was years ago, right? And now I have her book. That's great. It's called Ignore It, her first book. And I quote that. I read that. It's been a fantastic help in teaching me how to be a better parent, right? But I think about things just from this past year. I really want to hear the stories. I really want to hear the examples. I really want to hear the tips and tricks, and this is how you handle these things.
Yeah.
As simple as sewing. right?
Yep. Yeah.
You know,
Paul Gordon's mom doing the sewing. That was
right.
awesome.
I learned to sew, like sew on a button and sew up, you know, a tear on a seam years ago. Well, decades ago. In fact, it was so long.
Did you take home ec class? Because I did.
Yes, yeah, and it was great. It was fantastic. Which we should talk about that too, because that was hilarious. Because no other guys in home ec, and they're like, "What are you taking that for?" We're going to shop. I'm like, yeah, that's where all the boys are, right?
So you didn't get that choice.
I'm going to home ec.
Yeah, at my school,
that's
you
where all
didn't
the
get
girls.
That choice. Yeah, you didn't get that choice in my school, man. I mean, it was junior high. Everybody went there, and you know what's interesting? I was actually listening to NPR the other day, and they were talking about the fact that there's this culture trying to sort of come back into more of a mainstream where it's okay to wear secondhand clothes. It's okay to mend things that have gotten a tear in them and rewear them. And actually, there's this idea of like sewing with purpose, so that like it's almost like there's a bit of art to it. And they were talking about the fact they're like, man, they wish that home ec classes would come back to schools. And honestly, I was like, man, that would be great. I told Corey, I said, I would love to, if I could hone my skills a little bit more, it would be really cool to walk into a school and say, hey, like I would be willing to teach a home ec class and you know, teach, you know, it's like as stay-at-home dads, we already know how to do a lot of cooking and baking and things like that. And then, you know, for those that actually know how to sew, like that's just an extra thing. And so you bring all those together. And I honestly think it'd be a great almost way for stay-at-home dads to figure out a way to kind of get back into the workforce in a way. It's like, hey, like I can, because you don't really need like a teaching degree to like do sewing class or anything like that, but just the experiences that you have and being able to show you know, kids that a huge life skill, honestly, that it, you know, that because there's not very many seamstresses out there in the world, and you know, there's not many places to go to except for maybe your grandma to like maybe go get something sewed, and you know, they don't stick around forever, unfortunately. So you know, it's a good skill to learn. So I was like, man, that would be actually pretty interesting to see, you know, if there's dads out there who are like, I could do this and like go to junior highs and teach it, because it's not so much a high school thing. I saw some at high school, it is definitely something that you can sign up for, and it mostly was girls that did that. But in junior high, it's like all the kids, you get a chance to introduce it to them, and you can do some pretty cool stuff. I learned how to make a stuffed animal actually when I was in junior high. So,
nice. Yeah. And that, like you said, and grandmas unfortunately don't last forever.
Right.
And that's why we have videos.
Exactly.
Home Dad Con. So you can go back a year from now when you have forgotten, which I will, everything you learned in that class about sewing. And I've only watched the video once. So I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. This is great. And it's kind of muscle memory. You have to really be using it to keep it up.
Yep.
Being able to go back and go, what did Mrs. Gordon say about that again? Oh, yeah, that's right. This is how I do this. This is how I do this. Yeah.
The other person that I was going to say that brought a lot of really great information to was Melissa Davidson. Her look on you know, how we see things, you know, how like one parent sees how things are going versus another parent, and being able to evaluate that. I think that that video itself would be a great place to start actually for 2024, because you get an opportunity to evaluate how you see things versus your partner or spouse sees them, and kind of get things going on the right foot. And she had some great resources. She also had a like a great card set.
Get her cards,
exactly. And you know, you find out when you do the exercise that she walked us through that you might find there's a real big surprise, like just with the fact of, you know, what things you connect with and what things that, you know, are just missing, and just how you you know, just where you score things in life. So that's, to me, that's the one that I would start with for 2024.
And it's and I don't want to spoil it too much, because, you know, you really need to listen to her. She's the professional.
Yeah, she's the professional.
Right? But your values is so important. It reminded me that before Marnie and I got married, we actually sat down with I think he was a pastor of the Lutheran church, He wasn't our pastor. We were we were in Georgia. We're going to get married in Minnesota. So we're looking for someone that could do everything pre-marriage that we needed to do in Georgia so that we could go to Minnesota and get married, right? Have the actual ceremony. But one of the things he said, he sat down and he said, well, yeah, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you and what you think about things. And I'm like, okay, I could talk about myself that all day, no problem. But the reality of it was he was looking for how we both view things. Now, simple stuff like, do you want kids? And we were like, yeah, we want kids. We both want kids. And then he said, and, after we were there for like half an hour, so it wasn't like jumped right to this. But one of the big things was the old almost philosophical question of, if you were in a fire and you had to save one of them and you could only save one of them, would you save your partner or your child? Right. And that's it. And I went, oh, I absolutely my partner. Yeah, of course. And Marnie goes, what? I'm like, yeah, what wouldn't you? She goes, no, I'd save our children. I'm like, you what? We can have more kids. And she goes, oh my God, no, we can't. I mean, we could, but they're not, that's our babies. And it was hilarious because the disparity in what we thought of and what we wanted to do as far as children. And of course it's a hypothetical and there's really no possible way you would ever fall into that situation. But the reality was that we had a very different viewpoint on that. Yeah. And it was wonderful to figure that out because then we could, going forward, I could make sure that I always had fire extinguishers near me. And that way, I could put myself out evidently and get out of the house. Thanks, Marnie, for letting me die. But, but the reality of it, coming back to what we were talking about, is what we valued most was very important. And in that 30-minute conversation, we covered so many things that you just don't really think about when you're in love. Oh, I love you so much. You're so amazing. And I am in love with Marnie still. She is so amazing, but it was good to know what you value. Does turning out the lights when you leave a room, is that something you would do? Or are you a monster? Well, you have to know these things ahead of time, right? You have to figure these things out. And Melissa Davidson really just helped hone down on that. And what's really cool is it's learning how to use that in parenting, like how you parent your children. I mean, I do not spank my kids. I've not spanked my kids. I did the very first kid. The only thing I knew was how to spank, right? And that's what I did. And I apologize to the world for that. I think that was awful, but it's the only thing I knew, and I had to learn other ways, right? Marnie also had to learn other ways. That's just one of those things. But looking at, okay, what do I want out of this? What do I value? And having a friend say something as simple as, encourage your brother to get down from that, to get off the trampoline or whatever she said. And I'm like, encourage them? What the heck? Just tell them, yell at them. And if they don't respond, go slap them, and of course, that's not what I thought. But the reality of it is my mindset was based on my childhood and how I learned and how I had to learn new things. Right. And so in the end of it, I valued more. All I want is my children to be safe and to be happy. Right. Yeah. So hitting them's neither of those things. It's just, that's bad. Right. But figuring out what the value of it was for me, what do I want? Did I really want them to be like almost a military? Yeah. Snap to, let's do this thing. No, not really. That's not the household I want to raise. Right. Yeah, definitely. And going through that with your partner and saying, well, how do you value encouragement? How do you value positive reinforcement? Where do you fall on these ideals of how to raise a child? And Melissa did amazing stuff. I would say both for, intercommunication between you and your partner, and then definitely communication between you and your kids. It's amazing. I hope she does. I hope the world hears her message. Really. Definitely. It's fantastic. So.
Yeah, so you have those sessions like for Mrs. Gordon, that was a breakout session.
Delightful.
For Melissa, it was a main room session, and I think that just the difference, even though one's a breakout and one's a main, there's so much power and so much information in the different things that we're presented in all those things. I think another one that was really great was with Jeffrey Bernstein, like his exploring gender inclusivity. I can't even say that word. Inclusivity. Yeah.
It's early.
Gotta take a breath in between that one. But anyway, that presentation was amazing and had so much power in it. And honestly, like, is something that I think, I feel like that presentation specifically, there are people who are trying to figure out how to be the best person they can to change in ways that, that this is what they've learned, like this is what they know. And then also too, being able to see like, oh, like I need to, round out this rough edge of, how I, see people or treat people and that kind of thing. And I'm guilty of that. And I've been working on it for, years here now. And especially since joining the National At Home Dad Network and just being around other people that I've otherwise never had any contact with before, and being able to see the value in them, and just the friendships that have come out of that as well, because of the fact that I've been willing to work on those things and be open to being called out, actually. And, people have pointed out different things. And so I really appreciated his presentation, and it was just so powerful to hear it. But I think too, as dads who are raising children to be adults, it's something that where, you have to go out and search to find, the information that he brought, because it's not something that's just going to come to you. If you come to Home Dad Con, you do kind of get to have it come to you in the fashion of, if you did not know that was going to be there or whatever, like you're getting that information that way. But honestly, like it's something you have to actually take the time, the energy to say, I want to do this. I want to know this. I want to know this information. And so I greatly appreciated his presentation this past year, actually.
Yeah. And Jeffrey's amazing. I love him so much. He's just he's an adorable person. He just is. I just want to hug him. I want a little stuffy of Jeffrey Bernstein sitting on my shelf. That's what I want. I mean, pull it down every once in a while and hug the crap out of him and put it back.
Can it be a squishmallow?
He's adorable, right? Wouldn't it be the perfect squishmallow? He would be the perfect squishmallow. He really would.
It would be rainbows and all
that. Yeah, he's delightful.
Very colorful.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, all of these things that we're going over, all these things that we talk about are part of your membership, are part of what we offer to you to bring that value. And the membership is it's actually cheaper than it needs to be. And I'm just going to say that if you want to go ahead and get in now before we change the price, we might be changing the price, because I want to change the price. Our old treasurer, Ed Levezzo, and I hope Ed's listening, said something to me at a point, and other people have said it since, but he said it to me first. He said, well, I look at the things that the board wants to do as memberships. How many memberships do we have to sell, basically, in order to pay for the convention?
Yeah.
That's all it is. Okay. So you want to add, like we added the plaques or the little trophies for the Hogan Hilling Award, and we added a whole new trophy for
great
the Alumni Award.
Yeah.
Right. And it's amazing, but it is a cost, right?
Yeah.
And so, like the smallest one, I'm not going to say, but let's say the smallest one was $35. Well, that's one more membership that we need someone to join us so that we can pay for that. Right. Yeah. We're not, you and I joke about it. We talked about it before earlier today, and it's like, we don't get anything for this. We're not getting paid for this. This isn't, this isn't something, we're all volunteers, and we do it out of our heart and out of our passion, and we love it, but we still have bills to pay. Yeah. Both for running the organization through the year and for running the convention, which is probably what we're most famous for. But all of that added content, all those things that we're putting into the membership only, even t-shirts you can only buy if you're a member and things like that. These are things that we supply or we offer as a resource because we want our organization to reach more dads.
Yeah. And we've been very lucky too on the fashion of, like, with guests for the webinar and for the podcast, of not having to spend any money to bring those people on. Like they've just
Mhm.
out of the kindness of their heart been like, yeah, I'll give you an hour of my time. And a lot of guests on podcasts, they want a check. They're
Mhm.
like, I'm not coming on, I'm not spending my time if you're not paying for me to be
Yeah.
there. And I
And
really,
thousands of
oh my
dollars.
gosh, yeah, it's
It
a that
blows my
blow.
mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I remember us trying to well, so there's two that I remember specifically.
Let's
I
not name names. Let's not name names. Can
well,
we not
no,
name names?
these are professionals.
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't want to like embarrass anybody or put anybody up, make them
No, no,
seem
no, no, no. These are
I'm so
professionals.
greedy.
No, no,
Okay,
no.
go
These are
ahead.
so the first one was we jokingly were like, let's see what it would take to bring Rick Moranis like to Home
Mhm.
Dad Con. And I remember us reaching out and talking to like his publicist, and it was like 25 grand or something like that. It was like,
Yeah.
holy, I mean, that was eye-opening for all of us to be like, wow, I had no idea like that's
Mhm.
what it costs to bring somebody
Yeah.
like that to a
And
convention.
I think for him too, if you look at his life, he gave up acting so that he could raise his
Right,
kids.
right.
And that's
So it's
why
a
we love
livelihood.
him.
Yeah.
That's why we love him so much. So yeah. And I think too, not only a livelihood, but I think he's of a mind of like, I don't really want to do this. I got a family, I got things I'm doing, but if you want me to come do it, I will, but you got to pay me,
Yeah.
you know?
And then there are also two like
what's the other one?
there are like a dad comedian, like a dad comedian, like or
Mhm.
not a dad. Well, like, yeah, like what's his name from Wisconsin? I can't think of his name right off the hand. Like anyway,
Yeah. The Fleet Farm guy. Oh crap, what is his name?
yeah, I know. It's
Everybody says his name, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. And they show me a video. I'm like, oh, is he
Yeah.
that famous?
it's completely
Yeah.
lost me. But I mean, it costs. I don't remember the exact number, but it was thousands of dollars to even like entertain. Get him to consider being
Oh,
having
yeah.
some participation in Home Dad Con, or
Mhm.
even to like bring him on like a podcast
Charlie
or whatever.
Barons.
Charlie Barons, yeah, and
Charlie
I
Barons. I
get it.
Googled it.
Like that's his bread and butter, and I totally
Mhm.
understand that. But it's one of those things where it's like, this organization does not have those funds to be able to do something
Mm-mm.
like that. We've had where we've brought people in before where there was such a passion to bring in a speaker or something like that, that there was a group of people that would be like, well, we'll just pool our money together to make this happen. And so
Yeah.
we've had that happen before, but it's not something where it's like we actually have money set aside to bring in speakers for anything, and especially even Home Dad Con. I mean, the people who come in for Home Dad Con, those speakers are giving of their time. Like they're giving a lot actually to come, and it's super amazing how they see the value in connecting with other dads, like with the organization. And that's all part of that whole thing where it's like, we basically, the organization itself has it set up to where we're just trying to kind of pay the bills, and figure out a way to do these other things. So
Mhm.
I completely understand the conversation and idea of, well, maybe we do need to up membership a little bit to cover things, especially like you were saying, like awards and stuff like that. Because I know in past years, like there's just been a lot of times it's board members who are just passionate about like, this is I really want this, I will just
Mhm.
pay for it out of pocket.
Yeah.
And that's how it's happened, and it's like,
Mhm.
so I wanted to say that just from the fashion of, I just want just the listeners and anybody who's thinking about membership, be like, man, like, well, that would suck if they raised it. It's like, but do you understand that there are people just paying out of their own pocket
Yeah.
for one big lump thing, when if you brought in a group of people, it was a conglomerate, and it was like, oh, it's like $2 here,
Yeah.
$2 there kind of deal. Like
If
that's
everybody
a lot
went
different.
up, like if everybody went up $5, if everybody went up $5, what would that mean to me? I
Right.
mean, well, okay, $5 more a year, I can do that, right?
Yeah.
I'm of course in a place where I can do that. In fact, so it's $5 is $5, and it is more money. But what it does, if we have 200 people to
Yeah.
pay us $5 more, oh wow, okay, so yeah, we've got $1,000 that we can deal with, we can handle, we can do this, we can do that, whatever. It's amazing
Yeah.
how much help it is for the organization. So, and I'm not talking like, I think it should be $100. I really don't.
No. Yeah.
It's not like that, but we need to go up. and the board is talking about it, and it's not my decision, of course, but I am all for it, and hoping that we do it. So a good impetus for anyone out there that's on the fence, if you are, go ahead and get into that early bird price of $35, because Danny may make you pay more next year. But we really want to push that. And I hate asking for money. I do.
I think everybody does.
Yeah, it's just awful. It's just awful. And I don't, like, I've never really enjoyed being on any type of fundraising operation. I tried the Knights of Columbus for a little bit, and I'm just like, I can't do this. I can't just ask people for money. No, it's this, and the church has enough money. Just tell you. That's why I'm not a knight. That's part of the reason I'm not anymore. But like the PTO, whatever you go to, how do we raise our funds? How do we make money for the school? And you can watch and see how beneficial that money is to the school.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've had schools that put in a playground over, several years' time, but they had that goal of having that big thing done, and it makes the whole school better for everybody. And that's kind of what we're looking at with this. The more people that are able to donate to us or become a member, the better off our organization is going to be. And that's the focus that I use to allow myself or push myself really to say, hey, we would love it if you would help us out. We would really appreciate it. We would use it well. You can look at our finances. We're absolutely transparent on our finances. They're in the minutes every single month. I have to sit through a treasurer's report. Sorry, treasurers. It's very valuable. It needs to be there.
You like hanging out with Grady Black. Come on.
I love Grady. Grady is awesome. But just like Grady said when he started, I said the same thing. I don't do money. I can't do money. And I can't. I would fail so hard at that. I would ruin it.
Yeah.
But Grady has picked it up, and he's done a pretty darn good job for somebody that really, this is not in his wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
But he's done it. He's done the work. But I think even he would admit that every month sitting through him reading the report is not the most exciting part of his month, I would say.
I feel like I just thought about this. It's like if somebody ran for the board and like their thing was like they're really good at money and that was their whole platform. Like everybody would be like,
Ed,
that guy. Yeah, exactly.
Ed, when we first talked about it, he goes, oh yeah, I don't know if he used to be an accountant. I know he was in financials, and everybody was like, you should be on the board.
Yeah.
Because the treasurer is the most important job.
Oh yeah.
It really is.
The books and keeping an eye on everything.
And it's down to the penny. And Ed was amazing. And we got another guy in, Lou, who came in. Lou, I'm sorry, I forgot. Moreno. Yeah.
Yep. Lou Moreno.
And he said the same thing. I kind of, I've been in financials. I do that. And I'm like, Lou, you can be on the board, because we were getting on at the same time. I said, if it comes down to it, you can have my spot.
Yeah.
Because we need that way more than we need some
I remember
talker. That's about all I
remember when David Rogers was on, and he got kind of like pushed into the role, but he's a scientist. And so research and digging through things, and he dug through like the finances and found a whole lot of stuff. And that actually was sort of like the start of like uncovering kind of like years of just, I don't want to say it in a mean way, but maybe like poor management of of our finances.
Running a volunteer organization.
Right. Exactly.
That's all.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Volunteers are, they're trying to help. And so, yeah, he uncovered a lot of different things, and that sort of like started to like open up like, oh, we forgot about this, or we kind of missed out on this. And like, and that's the other part of it, is having somebody who's like very keen on keeping an eye on those sorts of pieces to the puzzle. So yeah, like I was just thinking about that though. I was like, man, if you had somebody who's like just really like excited about numbers, that guy's a gold mine. That guy's perfect for it.
That's their thing, and that's what we talked about previously with Keith running the convention and stuff. And that's what. And this was, and I think I've said this in the podcast before. I apologize for my redundancy, but he said, talking about one person, he goes, yeah, well, this person's going to do this because that's their thrive. And I went, their thrive. Yes. I love that use of that word. I've never had it used that way, but that's what we're talking about.
It's a great
You find somebody that thrives on numbers and keeping the accounts and everything. And like, I would I would cry if I had to do. I would just sit there and go, I don't know, man. It says -10, but then the Excel sheet turned it into a date, and now we're all fucked up. I'm sorry, all screwed up. I would, it would be horrible because I just don't like money. I really don't like having money or dealing with
Yeah.
money. It's an ancient thing in my life. But somebody that is their passion, is their thrive, you find that person. Yes.
Yeah.
Come on, we
Well,
need
this-
that help.
It's the
So-
same thing too with like social media and the marketing team. I mean, you got
Mhm.
guys like, JHG and Patrick Wilburn and Joshua Bernstein. Like those guys, like they all have such a passion and drive to
Mhm.
create, graphics and,
Yeah.
work on figuring out ways to just draw people into the social media platforms and those kind of things. And that's their thing. Like, I remember Joshua being like, well, I can do this. And I was like, all right, great. Like I hadn't really seen much of what he is doing. And man, he just took off like a freaking rocket. And I was like,
Mhm.
all
He's
right,
amazing.
like you got this. And then Patrick jumped in and was like, well, I know how to do graphic, I can build some of these things up, which was huge
Mhm.
because for the longest time it was JHG doing it
And
all
only, yeah.
and only him. And now, like, especially with the transition that JHG has made, kind of back into doing some work outside of the home because his
Mhm.
kids are older. Like Patrick has taken a ton of work off of his table,
Yes.
off his plate,
Yeah.
and it's those kind of things, like the
Mm-hmm.
continual, like who's walking in the door next, and they actually are like, I can do this, I know how to do this, and they come in with confidence, passion, and the skill set to make it happen. And
Mhm.
those are the things that really help continue a volunteer organization to just thrive, like you were
Yeah.
using. Like that's going to be the new
Yeah.
word for 2024.
That's
thrive.
2024 thrive. Yeah. Find your thrive. That's what
Find your
it used to be.
thrive, yeah.
Find your tribe, because that's what communities. It's what we're here for. But now it's find your thrive. What's your
I like
passion?
that,
What's your
actually. That's a
organization?
really good slogan. 2024, the National at Home Dad Network. Find your thrive.
We're very young, aren't we? Yeah, we're very hip. We're a very hip organization. Bunch of
We
dad
try.
jokes
We
just
try.
waiting to
Well, I mean,
happen.
you know how dads are. We always try to sound hip.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, slide into the room on our Heelys. Look at the other kids and their friends and go, "Anybody want a YOLO? Anyone?"
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Wow. You mentioned Heelys. Love
Right.
it.
Right. Right. Because when
Oh,
your kids say, "Dad, please don't embarrass me," it's like, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Challenge accepted.
All right. All right. The funniest thing is all through when my oldest got into high school, right? I'm giving him as much freedom as I can because I need him to learn how to be responsible, do all these things for himself, because he has to know them, in my opinion, before he leaves our house to
Mhm.
go to college. He needs to know how to work his finances, put money in savings,
Yeah.
all these other things, be on time, follow a schedule, be there when he's supposed to be there. Right. And so and I think it was actually in 8th grade, he did it first. I showed up to pick him up after school and he wasn't there, and he didn't have a phone at the time. And, I just sat there for like 15 minutes before he finally just, decided to come out. And he's like, "Hey, Dad." I'm like, "You're 15 minutes late, bud." He's, "Oh yeah, I was just doing this. And I stopped and get something out of the vending machine." And I'm like, "Okay, all right. Well, I understand all those things. You want to do all those things. We can do one of two things. One, we can change the time, right, that we meet. I'll come by 15 minutes later. That's fine. Or you can be here on time.
Mhm.
But whatever time we set, you have to be there at that time." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do that." I'm like, "No, you don't understand.
Yeah.
I'm going to show up tomorrow in my denim overalls with no shirt and a straw hat, and they're going to be rolled up so that the pig poop doesn't get on them. And I'm going to walk into that school at the time you're supposed to be here and start calling out your freaking name."
Oh my gosh.
And he's
That's
like,
awesome.
"What, Dad?" Like, "Yeah, don't treat me like I don't exist other than when you need me. You say like whatever you say 3, I'll be here at 3. I'll probably be here 2 minutes early.
Yep.
That's what I do. But if you decide 3:30, whatever, yeah, well, that's not going to work, right?"
Mm-mm.
And in life, that doesn't work. You have to fit your schedule to the people around you. You have to look at the people and go, "Oh, hey, like you and I, every week we get together at a time that sometimes it's super convenient, sometimes it's not convenient at all, but we're
Right.
still here. we still do it because we've committed that to each other. And that's what you
Exactly.
do as a responsible person, right? I'm like, yeah, sure. All right, bud.
I
You
like
have
that though.
one chance, and then I'm just going to embarrass you until you cry, and
Mhm.
then you'll show up on time, won't you? You will never make me late again.
Well, that you were mentioning about like money and that kind of thing. Like that's a huge one. Like especially from the realm of just teaching kids, because
Mhm.
lots of kids, especially when they hit junior high and high school, it's like, oh, they see mom and dad is like, yeah, there's plenty of money. Money just grows on trees. Like they have a
Mhm.
money tree in their backyard. Like that's just secretly invisible. And parent,
Yep.
mom and dad just go out there and pick it off of there when they're sleeping or something
That's
like
right.
that.
That's right.
And I was listening to K-Love actually, and one of the DJs said, I think I have failed as a parent. And I was like, ooh, that's a very strong statement to make on
Mhm.
national radio. And she said that her teenage son had, I guess, done some damage to their car or his car or something like that. And it was going to cost like $1,700 to fix. And he just walked in and was like, hey, mom, hey, dad. I need $1,700 to fix this. And they were like, what? And they kind of had their own little personal check on things and was like, oh, we have not done a great job of teaching how money works, or how
Mhm.
like we're not going to be the one that's going to foot the bill for all of this stuff, and they're going to have to figure it out. And it was interesting, like the conversation that took place, because um you know different parents do it differently. Like there's no one set way to
Right.
deal with that. So like there are some parents who say, like they were talking about, like one person said like, oh, my dad was always like 50-50. So like if something happened, or if like, hey, like I'm in sports, like if you're doing like maybe elite sports or something like that, it's like, I want this pair of Jordans or this pair of soccer shoes or whatever it is, and they're like $80, and parents are like, fine, you come up with 40, I'll come up with the other 40, and you can get them.
Nice.
And or there's percentages, like they were talking about, like, all right, well, I will pay, 20%, the rest is on you, kind of deal. Theirs was, they actually had it the other way around. Like the parents were going to pay 15-20% on the $1,700 thing. And I'm like, that's not a lot. Like you're really not teaching the right thing there. Like the heavy
Yeah.
portion of it should kind of go
Needs
to
to
the
be
kids,
done.
so they
Yes.
understand like the value in it. And I
Yeah.
think that that's super important, because kids are always asking for things, and to
Mhm.
spend the time to be like, hey, listen, like I understand that you want this, however, like we would teach our kids in the fashion of like, they've been told, this is how much money I make an hour, type of deal. This is
Mhm.
what it would take. Like if I wanted to buy this, like this is how many hours I would have to work. But before that, even too, there's taxes that get taken out. So
Mhm.
you actually have to work even
Yes.
more, kind of deal. And being able to explain that to kids, and that's actually helped out like dramatically for us, because there are times where the kids are like, I want this Lego set, or I want that video game. And it's like, okay, like what have we talked about? And to be able to just go back to that, and also too to make sure that it actually has like sunk in, like what have we talked about in this, instead of just saying no, nope,
Mhm.
we're not doing that. Like to actually go into an explanation is much more valuable than just saying no to it. And I think that that is a huge skill set and value to really bring into your kids' lives,
Mhm.
because they need to know that. And unfortunately, there are generations that didn't do that well, and
Yeah.
and you see that, or just even parents who just didn't do it well. And part of it too is the school system, and how school systems don't teach certain things about economics and that kind of deal. But society as a whole, I guess, would be the best way to put it, has not done
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
to
And there's
teach the kids that stuff.
so much stigma around money. And there's especially if you were never taught and you actually don't know what you're doing,
Right.
you don't. And you don't want to admit that to your kids, because for so many generations, you never admit you were wrong. You never admit you make a mistake to your kids. You maintain that I did this the right way. No, even if you completely failed. And then on top of that, not wanting to put that burden on your kid that they have to worry. I have to worry about money. I don't want my kids to have to worry about money.
Right.
So I'm just not going to tell them about it. I'm not going to teach them about it.
Yeah.
And it's
Which is
such
not
a
a good,
horrible decision,
that's
right?
that's the
Because
word. Yeah. You went
yeah,
to the
they're
wrong extreme.
exactly like they're 18. Like, wait a minute. Oh, I can't afford paper towels? What has happened? Right. And it's just, you really have to get into it. And it's one of those things, I think I liken it to all of the other kind of dirty jobs you do as a parent, where it's whether it's, staying up all night with a sick kid, or it's cleaning up vomit, or it's changing diapers, or whatever it is. Yeah, those are gross, horrible, tiring, exhausting, terrible things. You need to do those. You have to do all of those.
Yeah.
Talking about money, teaching about money is very important in that same way. Educating yourself about money, how money operates, how you can operate and work with money. I personally mostly let Marnie do it because she was taught. She was shown. And her father was a sugar beet farmer. They had no money. They had 9 kids in a house that I don't know how they fit 4 people, right? But they did. They just made that. They did what they had to do. They had a huge garden. They ate out of their garden. They canned things, and he came from that lifestyle, and went 100% the right direction on how to handle money, and taught Marnie how to handle money. And Marnie is very spreadsheet oriented. She loves spreadsheets, right? So it worked very well for her. And then she's shown, like Fabian, I said, we're driving home. He goes, well, I get my first paycheck tomorrow or whatever. I'm like, oh, cool. We could take it somewhere and, cash it, I guess. And he said, oh no, it direct deposits to my account, my checking account. And I'm like, oh, well, there you go. That's cool. 17-year-old, you got a checking account. And he said, yeah, I'm putting half of it directly into my savings, and I'm going to use the rest of it. I'm not going to spend it all, but I do want to go every day, like go to school and get an extra like cookie or whatever from the vending machine from their, it's not really a vending machine, but it's the lunchroom's vending area. Right. And I'm just like, who are you?
That's
I
awesome.
don't even do that. I don't know how to do. I mean, I guess I could figure that out, but if I was back on a paycheck, what I did before I became an at-home dad is I took my paycheck, I signed it, and I gave it to Marnie. because otherwise, literally, I would still be sending it on like, well, I bought 15 12 packs of Dr. Pepper and a bunch of Red Hots. And that's what I would do. I would spend a little candy and crap because I'm just a moron when it comes to money. But she's perfect at it, and she taught him, and he's doing it. And then, and fortunately, my 14-year-old is just like Marnie. He is going to adore spreadsheets for his entire life. He's going to have a spreadsheet 6 months in advance for everything that's going on in his life. I can tell. And that's great. And I love that. I wish everybody had that, right?
He needs that shirt that I've seen recently that says, I'm thinking of a spreadsheet for that right now.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. But that's teaching our kids those things. And maybe and bring it back around. Maybe that's part of, your goals for your kids. Not you, but our goals, the world's goals, our father's goals for our kids. What do we want to teach them this year? What do we need them to learn? Because you have to look ahead and say, okay, I've only got 16 years to teach my kid all these things. Well, I got 16 years. That's forever. No,
that
no,
goes by so fast.
Oh, my friends, the day drags so long, but the years are a blur. You turn around and, like me, I got a kid going to college. Like, what?
Yeah.
He's going to be voting in the next presidential election. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
This little dude? I had to tie him to a tree when we went camping so he wouldn't climb into the fire pit. I didn't tie him to it, but it was like leashed. It leashed him to a tree, because he's a moron. What are you talking about? He can't go to college. Well, yes, because that was nearly 2 decades ago, you old man, and he's grown up, right? And you don't have all the time you think you have. So setting those goals, granted, if you have a 2-year-old, you don't have to teach them about money. That's not what we're saying. That's not what I'm saying, but learning that they need to know these things and when they need to learn them well before they need it.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Well, and that's the thing too, with like just the fact of college you were talking about. Like we've been talking to the kids about the fact that, instead of setting up a 523 account, because that is something used just for college, with my wife working in finances, there's this other account that you can open up. It's called a UTMA, and it sounds like a disease, but but basically UTMA account allows you to put money in and then also invest it as well. And when they turn 18, they get access to it to be able to, if they're wanting to get an apartment or if they want to, go to a skill trade, that kind of deal. It does not have the same abilities that the 523 has. It's more of a kind of like a savings. It's basically a bigger savings account in the fashion of it's got flexibility. And so like you can even give deposit slips out to family members who are like, what do your kids want for Christmas or birthday? And it's like, they really don't need a whole lot. Like, but if you really feel led to, like, whatever you were thinking of spending, just, put it into their UTMA, and we'll take care of making sure that it gets, invested properly and stuff. And so both the kids have those. And because we also too, we don't want to put them into a box and be like, you're going to go to college. Like, we want them to be able to, if they don't want to go to college, or if they are going to take time off in between high school and college, like whatever it is. But I know for, the way that the kids talk all the time, like they're kind of talking outside of the box on the things that they want to go and do, most of which don't include college, but more of like skills like trades and things along those lines. And it's like, all right, well, if a kid's going to go into trades, like 523 is not really going to help a whole lot. Like it's got to, there's different, it's a lot harder to get that. Yeah. It's harder to get that money out actually. And so I've told Corey that, it would be a really cool, like, breakout session for her to, or maybe even a webinar, depending on how her company allows her to do it, but to be able to talk to our community of, dads and kind of present both options. Like, hey, like this is one, this is the other, like this is how they function. Cause I think a lot of times, like we don't maybe know how that works. And honestly, like until I got into the financial industry, like I didn't understand it, but she's much higher up on the ladder than I am and has way more knowledge of it. So that's been a huge just point that we've actually been able to share with other people as well. Like, because a lot of times you're like, oh, what do I do? How do I set my kid up for this? And like, our oldest is going to turn 11 in a couple of months. And it's like, good Lord, he's got 7 years before he's 18. Like that's crazy. And
look how fast the last 7 years went. Yeah. Bam. It's gone. And he'll be out, like you said, before you know it.
Well, just the fact that like, you think about COVID and how that happened, like those years went by so fast, and you're like, you look back and you're like, what happened? Like, that's crazy. It's like, here I have a kid who's going to be in junior high next year. Like, talk about mind blown. Like, I'm like, holy cow, like life is going to be very different next year. Just because of, he's going to be experiencing a lot of different things. And then also too, like our daughter, she just kind of melds right into him in a lot of ways. So it's interesting just how that all plays. So it's like, while we're teaching him, like basically it's like, we don't want to leave her in the dust, even though she's a couple years younger than him. Like they both need to be learning these things at the same time. And that's the biggest key to it. And so, it's crazy. And that's like, I just, for us, like, that's one of the biggest things. Like my wife came from a family, like you were talking about with your wife, like my wife's family are farmers too. And farmers, I feel like, are some of the biggest gamblers in the world, honestly, because
yes, they are.
I mean, you put it in the ground and you pray to God that it's going to grow something that's going to, have a great return for you, or otherwise, like, you could be in ruins, honestly, really quickly. And so she was never really taught finances because they just kind of were very willy-nilly about things. And then when she got into being at Fidelity, she's like, oh, wow, like we need to be, a lot more stringent on how we're doing these things. And on top of that too, like going to church, we got involved with Dave Ramsey, and I'm not saying that he's like the pinnacle of things, but just learning how to budget your money right and how to maybe attack debt was really important for us to be able to see that coming from a family that didn't really discuss those things outright because it was private matter and you don't want to discuss that. And it's like, that's one of probably the worst things that families can do is like, oh yeah, finances is a private matter. It's like, one, kids are observant. They see things, like they understand. Like I know for a fact, Corey in high school worked and like you were saying, like, your son was like, oh, I take half of it and I put in a savings account, and there half I do this. She would take it and have to like go pay a water bill or an electric bill with it because her parents, her dad didn't have the money for it because he was a farmer. Her mom was a stay-at-home. And so it's those kind of things. Like they saw that. And then when they get into being adults, it's like, a lot of times there's this resolute to like, I am not going to be like that. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to go the opposite direction. And so, yeah, that's very passionate about that. That's something that our family really leans on hard to make sure that our kids grow up to understand all those elements.
I really love it when you said, talking about the UTMA, that what your kids want to do when they leave high school, when they start their life. Do they want to go to college, or do they want to go to a trade school? My immediate thought was, one of the things that I want for all of my kids is that they travel.
Yes.
I want them to take a year abroad, whatever that might mean for them, wherever they want to go. If they want to do it as part of their college thing, if they just want to do it on their own, if they want to do it like as a missionary somewhere, whatever they decide they want to do, where they want to reach out and go experience a different culture. It could be, it could honestly be just spend 6 months in Mexico doing something, not like sitting on the beach getting drunk. You could do that too, but
go work at a mission
purpose,
or something.
Work at a mission, help people with, because everyone needs help in the world. Finding those things to experience that difference we're growing up in Wisconsin. There's not a lot of variety in Wisconsin for people. You have to go to one of the big cities and you're like, oh, wow. Okay. People from everywhere. And understanding that people grew up different, people learn different, people eat different, everything about it, and that it's all amazing.
Yeah.
Just experience it. I love it that you brought that up about the UTMA, that it gives an opportunity to let them do what they want to do, to follow their dream, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important as a parent to remember that, okay, like all of my kids, everything I want, they need to go to college, in my opinion. They just need to go to college, and one's the experience, one is maybe a year abroad, but get a degree, whatever it might be in, to understand that education is important. And whether they use that degree or not, honestly, I don't care. If they decide, we met a guy that was one of the best tour guides I've ever met. He knew so much about his country, the area, why they did the things they did. He had more understanding of his country's history than I do of American history. And he was just verbose. He's just dumping information on you, right? And his degree is in geology.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with anything that we talked about. He didn't talk barely anything about geology the whole time. He talked more about their moves with nuclear power plants, both locally and in the world, and how that affected the local economy and the local environment and all this other stuff. Nothing to do with geology, but it was a foundation of education that he started with. Right now, that's what I want for my kids. Honestly, that's what I expect of my kids. Go get a degree, but if they said, Dad, I don't think a degree is where I want to go. I want to go, I love trade schools. Absolutely. Yeah. I want you to do that too. Figure out how to change the thermostat. Is that hard? It evidently is. I still go back to that. I met so many college kids. Like, I get so many emergency calls. Well, the heat's not working. Oh, okay, it's 2:00 in the morning. I'm on my way. Show up. And I'm like, okay, have you touched the thermostat? Yeah, we put it all the way over to 80 and nothing happens. Oh, okay. All right. So I'm going to flip it from cold or cool to heat.
Yeah.
And it immediately goes, and they're huddling by the vents like, yes, our savior, we were going to die of the cold. I'm like, just flip it to heat, you moron. I got to the point where I asked ahead of time, like, well, do me a favor, just flip it over to the heat and see if you get any kind of a burning smell. You should smell something. It's basically just dust and like burning off of the elements. And like, oh God, I smell smoke. I smell smoke. I'm like, no, calm down. Deep breath.
Yeah.
It'll go away in a second. Why your dad didn't teach you this? I don't know. But yeah, so trade schools are fantastic. And I would love that too. I would love it if that's what they want to do. Like my kid. Okay. So we had Christmas presents and James is 14. He got a present for Fabian.
Okay.
Because it's his older brother. I'm like, this is adorable. And he goes, no, it's not, Dad. Just wait.
Oh,
and it's a big ball of tape. And inside the tape is a grocery bag. And inside the grocery bag is another ball of tape. And inside of that ball of tape is I think it was a Ziploc bag. And it goes down 5 layers of tape and wrapping. And then at the very end, it's a picture of the guy that does the Rickroll. Do you know what a Rickroll is?
Oh my
Never gonna
gosh.
give you up.
Yes.
Yeah, and
yes.
and he traced a drawing of the guy's face and goes, "Merry Christmas." And Fabian was livid. He was like, "I cannot believe it." I'm like, "This is beautiful." I said, don't push it." Fabian said, "I'll get you back next year. I'll do blah, 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 blah." And I said, "Fabian, what you don't recognize is James knows how to weld, because he's taking metal shop and he's made himself a toolbox and a thing to hang coats on and all this stuff. He knows how to weld." And I swear the anger in Fabian's eyes, he goes, "If you give me a present that's welded shut, I'm going to hit you with it." I'm like, "Okay, all right, guys, just calm down."
Yeah, don't mess with people who know how to use tools and all that. Like, that's just never a good thing.
The reality is, I don't know how to weld. I know how to solder and stuff, and I can put like, ACs in with, solder the copper lines together. I know how to do that. I don't know how to weld. I can forge weld, like put it in a lot of heat and hammer two pieces of metal together. But I don't know like TIG welding and MIG welding and all that. I don't.
Yeah,
my son does.
Oh, hey.
And that's such an awesome skill to have.
Yeah.
Right. And again,
amazing.
Learned it in metal shop, but maybe he wants to go do that. I want to go to a trade school instead of
you can make some real good money being a welder. I'll tell you that much. There's some great jobs out there for that. So that's awesome. That's hilarious.
Very dangerous, but yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, okay, wherever you want to go, and having the ability to move that money into a place where they can use it, I think is very, very smart.
Right.
I don't know what Marnie's doing with it. I think she does the 523. Is that what it is? 523?
523. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that's what we have already set up. But yeah, I'm going to go, "Hey, Marnie, I think we ought to move the kids over to a UTMA."
Yeah. Look into it
and
check
just
it out.
See what she'll be like, "How do you even know what that is? Who have you been talking to? What are you doing now?" I'm trying for some sexy time. And I know if I talk to you about finances, you'll be like, "Oh, you're so smart. I love you." Yeah. Yeah. So UTMA buttons. Sound good? Yeah. It should be like, "Okay, so tell me about a UTMA. Why would you want to do that?" I'm like, "Well, that doesn't really matter, babe. I mean, if you don't know, I'll just leave."
I said the words. You got to figure out the rest.
You got to do this.
you fill in the rest of the sentence.
You just have to remember I'm smart.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a total husband. That's a total husband thing, right? That's a total husband move right there. Oh my goodness. Well, we hope that everybody listening to this, like, that you got a couple things out of it, especially with the fact that 2024 is here and the opportunity to kind of reset goals and reevaluate what it is that is important to you and your family, and then also to consider re-upping your membership for the National At Home Dad Network so that you have access to the videos that we were talking about, and there's plenty more, trust me, in there. You get access to all of them, so lots of benefits in that. But I just want to say also too, as we turn the page into 2024, a big thank you to all of the listeners. This podcast has grown quite a bit over the past year. I just saw actually where we've got like 94 like Spotify listeners alone, which is pretty awesome. And we're coming up on 150 episodes here pretty soon, and almost 13,000 downloads. So we're really enjoying putting out the information, and it seems like that a lot of people are enjoying listening to it and sharing it with other people too, as they find, oh, like, I know this person would like to listen to this. And so we really appreciate all that. And so we just want to convey how thankful we are for everybody's dedication to our show. And we'll just keep continuing to put out episodes as this year chugs along. So but other than that, I think we're up against the clock. So we will talk to you all next week, and hope you have a great week until then.
Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.